16 people have been confirmed dead in the George building collapse. Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane has conveyed words of condolence to the bereaved families who tragically lost their loved ones after the wall of a shop collapsed at Ngobo in the Eastern Cape. A family from Soshanguve, north of Pretoria, has been left distraught after their 5-year-old boy was shot and killed during a hijacking. Welcome to the week ahead right here on the SABC News channel. We are live with you today from our Johannesburg studios. You can interact with us on social media platforms. It's at The Week Ahead and our hashtag is The Week Ahead. You can also give us a ring on 011-714-0680, 0681 or 0682. I am Sebenzile Nkambule and a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. The authorities in the Western Cape have confirmed that the death toll following the collapse of a building in George has risen to 16. Rescue efforts continued overnight after teams yesterday pulled out a worker who had been trapped on the 3rd floor of the collapsed building for 118 hours. 14 people are in hospital and 36 others are still unaccounted for. Meanwhile, the Police Minister Bakai is expected to visit the site today. For the latest on this ongoing rescue operation, we cross live to SABC News reporter Vanessa Puna, who is on the site. Vanessa, a very good afternoon to you and thank you for your time. Give us a sense of where these rescue and recovery operations stand. Yesterday, there was a glimmer of hope after one Gabriel Guambe, in fact, was pulled out alive after more than 100 hours being stuck under the rubble. How are things looking on this Sunday afternoon?
Yes, good afternoon to you. And that hope that flickered here at the site of the collapsed building in George on Monday, of course, was really renewed in terms of what we had seen, a miracle in the working when Gabriel, as you've mentioned there, was pulled out from the rubble. We understand that he is in good spirits, minimal injuries. And of course, that is what the rescue effort is all about here in George. I'm joined now by the fire chief of George, Niels Barnard, for an update with regards to that the continuous efforts to rescue more people, and of course at the same time we do know that there is a recovery underway. Mr. Barnard, gone 12 o'clock just now, the latest update with regards to the operations here, and also we've seen some movement in terms of possibly more people being found.
Yeah, that's correct. We are still in the rescue and recovery mode, and we recovered a body at 10:55, that of a lady, and the recovery went off very, very well. We also just now recovered another body that we must still extricate from the rubble, and that's where we stand at the moment.
So that brings the number of people that have passed to 18, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's up to 17. We will only give the figures when the body is out. So at this current moment, we're standing on 17.
We've seen some vigorous activity here at the site behind me with basically all the machinery being used this morning again. It's gone quiet just a short while ago. I understand it's possibly because of that recovery of that body. Talk to us about whether you've managed to make any more inroads in terms of those voids you were telling us about earlier on, other pathways to the rest of the collapsed building.
Yeah, that's right. We went into the voids with the camera, and unfortunately we couldn't find anything at the voids that we can get to, so we didn't find any recoveries there. But as we progress, we will definitely recover more bodies.
We've also seen, just behind you, 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks standing here, and there've been quite a bit of movement in terms of the amount of building rubble, of the concrete, of the steel, iron being taken away this morning. So we also see that there has been much progress with regards to lifting some of the collapsed top structures here at the site.
Yeah, that's correct. As the Colin explained earlier, we do it floor by floor. So as we go down, it makes it just easier for us to get to the bodies. And yeah, the rubble is, we must be absolutely cautious removing the rubble, because of we can get more recoveries there, and we don't want to damage any recovery. So that's basically that.
That is the question, I think, that people are asking after the miraculous event yesterday with Gabriel Gwambo. Of course, the hopes of your teams here on the ground in terms of further rescues today.
Yeah, we hope we can get more rescues today, and but everybody that's coming out, that's a blessing for us. That just give us a better spirit and to carry to go on forward.
We haven't seen any of your canines, the dogs, being used this morning. Is there a reason for that?
I think they just took them in now. That's why everything is quiet. So we will let you know as soon as we get more detail from them.
Thank you so much for the update, Mr. Barnard. Of course, the fire chief here in George giving us the latest update with regards to the operations this morning, as well as saying that they are still to confirm an 18th person, but at this stage the death toll has now risen to 17 here at the site behind me.
To this now, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party is on a campaign trail in Umlazi, Durban today. The party is currently embroiled in a leadership battle between Jacob Zuma and Jabulani Khumalo. Khumalo registered the party with the IEC, but in April, Khumalo wrote to the IEC indicating that he was stepping down as the leader of the party, making way for Zuma to become the leader. For more on this story, let's bring in SABC News reporter Ayanda Mhlongo. Ayanda, thank you very much for your time with us this afternoon. The former president is now back on the campaign trail in Umlazi today. What is the mood amidst, of course, the infighting that we are seeing within the Umkhonto weSizwe Party?
Well, very good afternoon to you and good afternoon to our viewers at home. Yes, certainly. The campaign here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal is intensifying, with not only former President Jacob Zuma here, but we know that other political parties as well have brought their senior leaders here to KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, as you're saying, that this comes at a time we're just a few weeks away from the election, and a number of challenges within the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, as you say, of course, the biggest being the current leadership tussle between former President Jacob Zuma and the Jabulani Khumalo, rather, who registered Umkhonto weSizwe Party. We know that just last week, Khumalo wrote to the IEC requesting that it remove former President Jacob Zuma as the face of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, and also remove him from the candidate list. And this was just a week or two after former President Jacob Zuma had expelled Khumalo and some other senior members of Umkhonto weSizwe Party from the party. Yesterday, we got an opportunity for the first time to hear from former President Jacob Zuma, him essentially breaking his silence on the fallout between him and Jabulani Khumalo, and him also admitting that he was in fact behind Umkhonto weSizwe, and that Khumalo, he had then requested Khumalo to register the party on his behalf, but also expressing his disappointment by what he said were people or leaders within Umkhonto weSizwe who were too ambitious and after positions. In fact, he went as far as to say is that when they started Umkhonto weSizwe Party, he took the decision that they were going to have interim structures, and he said that this was to avoid a situation where people would be fighting for positions, which is now what we're seeing play out within the party. Him seemingly quite disturbed by these recent developments. I mean, yesterday comes in that when he was addressing an interfaith prayer, he spoke for about an hour there, and at least 7 times him repeating his disappointment with what has happened within Umkhonto weSizwe, but also then pleading with the supporters of Umkhonto weSizwe to keep their eye on the ball to remain focused and to not be distracted by this infighting within the party, saying that they were on course for a 2/3 majority, and that is what the focus of the party members should be. Despite what has been happening behind the scenes within Umkhonto weSizwe Party, let me just quickly step out of shot for our viewers to see what is happening here at the Freedom Park in KwaMashu, where supporters of Umkhonto weSizwe have started to gather in their numbers from this morning. In fact, we are still seeing buses, cars arrive here with more and more supporters of the MK party were here to hear for themselves the message that will be brought by the leader of Umkhonto weSizwe, that being former President Jacob Zuma. And I guess today you probably will again talk about what the developments are within the party, like he did yesterday, to sort of avert any concerns that may come from his supporters on what exactly is happening within the party. You'd know that yes, there is this leadership tussle at the national level within the party, but there's also been a number of changes, even here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, where we know that this is where Umkhonto weSizwe has its roots, that this is the province where the party has the strongest support. There's also been a lot of changes with the leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe in the province, as well as in their structures. Could be pointing to bigger issues within the party, but the party leaders will tell you that, of course, they are a new party, and them saying that they've been sort of moving people around. Nobody has a permanent position within Umkhonto weSizwe, but certainly, a disappointment from whether it was expressed by former President Jacob Zuma.
On that very issue, Ayanda, about the squabbles and the leadership within Umkhonto weSizwe Party, one Jabulani Khumalo was a relatively unknown figure until more recently, and of course he's now since been booted out. Does he wield any power, really, any significant support within the party itself, and might perhaps him being removed from being a member of the party, might that perhaps adversely affect the MK party?
Jabulani Khumalo, nobody knew who he was until former President Jacob Zuma announcing his support to remember on the 16th of December last year. That is when, we started to know that there is a Jabulani Khumalo. Not much is known about Khumalo, and we're not seeing sort of a shift, huge groups of people saying that they're breaking away yet from Umkhonto weSizwe in support of Jabulani Khumalo. There has been reports that this past week there was a group that was planning a protest outside former President Jacob Zuma's home in Nkandla, and this was a disgruntled group within Umkhonto weSizwe that were not happy by the decision to expel Jabulani Khumalo. But by and large, we haven't seen a major split within Umkhonto weSizwe Party. But as I was saying, Kumzile, that hearing President Jacob Zuma stressing this point, that he's quite disappointed in the developments, and him taking almost an hour to explain what is happening within the party, of course, could probably signal that he is concerned about how people are going to view or see this situation, and whether or not it could create some uncertainty amongst the supporters of Umkhonto weSizwe to say you're only a few months since you've been established, and we are seeing major cracks within the party.
Thank you very much. That was SABC News reporter Ayanda Mhlongo coming to us live from Umlazi. We'll move on to this now. The Economic Freedom Fighters leader Julius Malema is today taking the party's election campaign to the Northern Cape. He is in Post-Marsburg today to urge voters to vote EFF in the upcoming elections. Our reporter Ulrich Hendricks is following the story and joins us now on the line. Ulrich, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. What does the Economic Freedom Fighters support look like where you are, and what is the mood like today, where we're expecting the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, to address those gathered?
Hi, good afternoon. Well, we're in Boichoko, that's in Post-Marsburg, of course adjacent to the JTG area. of the Northern Cape district. And traditionally, the JTG district in the Northern Cape is a very, where the EFF perhaps enjoys more support than in other areas within the Northern Cape. Of course, like you are seeing, quite a number of people have pitched up for the address by EFF leader Julius Malema. He is still on his way here, so we're hoping that he'll be arriving soon, and then of course addressing the people here. Another thing is that this area is full of mines, and of course also renewable energy projects. So we're looking forward to what he will say in terms of that. But let's speak to Sarel Eland. He is one of the EFF members waiting for that address by Party President Julius Malema. Tell me, what do you expect Mr. Malema to say today?
First and foremost, we'd like to welcome our President CIC Julius Malema to Tsansabani. Hopefully, and I believe that he will address the issue of job in our town. He will address land reform. That's what I believe. He will address housing. He will address sanitation. He will address water shortages, and I'm sure he will address the issue of electricity in our community.
Sarel, we're surrounded by mines, a lot of mines in this area, and we know the EFF. What do you hope to, you will say about the mines and people enjoying more ownership of mines?
I'm glad that you asked that question, because we have reminisced and we sit and we discuss this issue of mines. We have over 50 mines in Tsansabani. But at this point in time, all those mines does not belong to the custodians of the land. We all people who doesn't have a say in the economic. We need economic inclusion, and the issue of the mines, hopefully Mr. Julius Malema will address that issue, because right now as we sit here, the mines does not contribute according to what they agree to us. No housing, no infrastructure, no sanitation. We have over 50 mines, and that is a challenge that we have in Postmasburg.
So now we're just over 2 weeks from the provincial and national elections. How do you think the EFF will fare?
I'm positive that come the 29th of May, CIC President Julius Malema will win these local elections, because we are really thirsty for change. We need something new. We want someone who can speak to the youth. We want someone who can address our issues. And I firmly believe, as a member of the EFF, Mr. Julius Malema, CIC President, will come out victorious on the 29th of May.
Thank you very much, Sarel Eland, one of the EFF members. He actually travelled a while to get to Postmasburg to basically attend this gathering to be addressed by Julius Malema. Of course, after this, he'll head to the JTG region, that is at Batlaros, where President Cyril Ramaphosa actually last week held one of the MBZOs. And so Julius Malema still to arrive. But he's looking for, he's going to get a warm reception here. And like Sarah also said, this area, a lot of mines, more than 50 mines, and people here are hoping to hear what he will say about, the mines and economic emancipation of the people here.
To this now, a family from Soshanguve, north of Pretoria, has been left distraught after their 5-year-old boy was shot and killed during a hijacking. The 5-year-old was killed when hijackers were stealing his father's Bakai outside the family home on Friday night. Gauteng police have confirmed that a manhunt has been launched to find the culprits. SABC News reporter Patricia Fasaghi is standing by with the latest. Patricia, a very good afternoon to you. You're, of course, outside the home where this tragedy struck. Give us a sense of the latest, but also what you are hearing from the police about this manhunt.
Well, good afternoon. Of course, as you've rightfully put it, We are at the family home here in Soshanguve, Block U. And you would have to understand that this is an incident that has sent shockwaves throughout the country. It has left a community traumatized, and of course the grief-stricken family that is battling to come to terms with this particular incident. And again, the spotlight falling on the spate of crime, in particular gun violence, that is terrorizing communities. Soshanguve being in the spotlight of late for, in particular, the increase in gun violence and contact crimes that is really just, creating a lot of havoc and putting people's lives at risk, community members that are living in perpetual fear, and now their children paying the ultimate price. It is Mother's Day. As we know, it's a celebration that is often marked with a lot of excitement. But in this community, that is not the spirit that prevails. It is a bitter, a dark and cold Mother's Day. You'd understand the saying that says, an injury to one is an injury to all. So it's not just the mother from the Palani family, the mother of the 5-year-old Ditebogo Junior Palani, who obviously met his untimely death on Friday night when that unfortunate incident played out right here where we're standing right now. But, it's not just her who's perhaps having a cold and dark Mother's Day, but the women in this neighborhood, in the street, they're sharing her pain. They join me right now to talk about how they are touched and just how they dealing with this trauma. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm now joined by Mita. Just share your feelings with us.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Mita Khapola. I'm a next door neighbor. This thing happened on Friday. It was on Friday around 10 o'clock past 10. I was sleeping, and then my daughter, she was still busy. She was still watching TV. So she was the one who woke me up. She said, "Mommy, there is a gunshot outside there." Then I woke up, and then I ran to dining room because she was still in a lounge. So I went there. When I got there, she was shocked. She thought maybe she was the one who was being shot. She was holding his shoulder. She said, "Mommy, somebody shot." No, I said, "No, there is nobody inside the house." So my other neighbor called, said, "Mikey, did you hear the gunshot?" I said, "I didn't hear anything, but my daughter said there was a gunshot." So we woke up, and then we were calling each other. After that, we came outside because the mother of the son, she was busy crying. So we came outside. When we get there, then the gate was locked. Then they were inside. We were waiting here for her to open for us. Then when she was opening, then she was crying. There was a noise all over.
So there was pandemonium, devastation all over.
Yes. So we were with her here. Then the father went to hospital. Then after a few minutes, then the father called. Then he said the son is dead. So it's so painful. Even our kids, they are still shocked because you see we are neighbors. So the kids had everything. We are shocked.
And as we are marking Mother's Day, as a mother yourself, what does this mean to you on this day?
Yeah. It's so painful. Yeah, it's so painful. I have nothing to celebrate today. I don't see any reason to celebrate because Junior, he was like a son to me because he was playing with my daughter. Even my daughter yesterday, he was asking what's going on. I've tried to hide. Even in the morning, I take her to somewhere so that she cannot see what's going on because she's still 5 years. She was playing with Junior. So last night she saw on the TV. She said, "Mommy, what's going on?" On TV they said someone shoot Junior. I've tried to talk to her, but even right now she's busy asking herself what's going on. Where is Junior? I want to play with him. So we don't know what must we say to her. It's so painful.
I'm so sorry. Let's bring Daphne in. Of course, you know, I cannot imagine how all of you are feeling. What are your thoughts this hour?
We, as the community of Soshanguve Block UU, we are still in shock. We are devastated about this situation that is happening right now in our community, all this crime. When we see young life being taken, it's very sad. You know, I'm getting out of words about this, you know. Yeah, this crime is too much. It's too much. We live in fear. We live in fear. We are traumatized. Not only for Soshanguve, but in South Africa as a whole. The crime has taken its toll. It's now too much. It's now too much. I just don't know what to say.
We'll have to leave it at there. Of course, we've run out of time. But you can see the police are here. They have intensified their manhunt. They're here to brief the family about what the latest is. Inside, the EFF's Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is also here. He is here to sympathize with the Palani family and obviously just show them support and find out what type of help they need. He'll also be going to the local police station, and this to obviously try and push the police to intensify their investigations. As you would know, there are calls that the culprits have to be found as quickly as possible. This is also a call from the family saying that justice might bring them relief and some sort of closure.
Patricia Fesachi live from Soshanguve Block UU, where the tragedy happened on Friday night. Let's cross now to former President Thabo Mbeki, who's briefing the media in Watuguza in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's take you there.
Thank you very much.
So we leave Groundville now to go back to Inanda for that occasion to pay, as I was saying, to pay our respects at the Tube family at the graveyard there.
Thank you very much. ENCA?
Zizi Siphamandla Goke from ENCA. These two leaders were not just national leaders, they were internationalists. When we are talking about peace in the continent and globally, Chief Albert Luthuli, Nobel Peace, there is a lot going on in geopolitics. The continued bombardment by Israel of Palestine, there are tensions in the DRC, there are calls for Benjamin Netanyahu to be indicted by the International Criminal Court of Justice. What is your take on that? But also, number two, when it comes to Chief Albert Luthuli, there are those who continue to call for the reopening of the inquest into his demise.
That is the matter that you raise about the inquest into Nkosi Lutuli's demise is a very important issue. It's a matter that I know the President Ramaphosa is attended to it. He's raised it with the right authorities within government, and it is a matter that is being processed. Is being processed within government. I think the particular institutions, including National Prosecuting Authority, is a matter I'm quite sure that they will attend to that. It's very important in order to get the truth about the passing away of Nkosi Lutuli here. The story that was told at the time and what was called an inquest at the time were not correct. The truth has to come out so that all the necessary things must be done in the context of that truth. But I'm saying that I know there's work that is going on within government, particularly including with the NPA, to deal with the matter. On the matter of Palestine, the fundamental question there are the rights of the Palestinian people. Until this matter is correctly addressed, that the rights of the Palestinian people are addressed in all respects, right to nationhood, the right to their own country, and all of that, unless those matters are addressed, the conflict will continue. It doesn't matter what the Israeli government thinks that it can do that with its might, it can smash the Palestinians and so on. The problem is not going to go away until the rights of the Palestinian people are addressed. I'm very glad that our government has taken up this matter in the way that they have. It's very important. It's very important that indeed this task to realize the rights of the Palestinian people is addressed. And really, I'm saying that it doesn't matter whatever the government of Israel might think. They might think they might use their force and their might in order to annihilate the Palestinian people. It's not going to work. You can't kill that spirit of rebellion among the Palestinian people to say, we will fight until we get our rights. It's a correct posture and we must support them. I'm glad that we are continuing to support them. You are right indeed that part of what we have to do, coming from our political tradition, the political tradition of Langalbele Dube, of Albert Lutuli, of other people, that tradition says we're also Pan-Africanists, and therefore we're keenly interested as the African National Congress to make sure that the continent gets it overcomes its own challenges of peace, of development, and so on. So we continue to be involved. Even now, with regard to the conflicts in Sudan, we try and deal with that question every day. Other issues of conflict around the continent were also involved in all of those, because I'm saying, coming from the traditional set by people like John Tube, like Albert Lutuli, it sets that obligation to make sure that we make our own contribution to the resolution of the African problems, and that's what we're trying to do. All right.
My name is Bakai. I work for SABC News. Of course, you are on a campaign trail. You have been interacting with various potential voters.
We come out of that live briefing, the former President Mbeki, who is live from Guaduguza, briefing the media there as he continues campaigning for the ANC. We will have more for you after this. Stay tuned. Thank you very much for staying with us right here on The Week Ahead. Let's turn to our Sunday papers. Let's look at the headlines this afternoon. Joining us to elaborate on those is Dr. Oswald Ureke. Dr. Oswald is a senior lecturer at the Department of Communications and Media Studies at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you very much, Dr. Ureke, for your time with us this afternoon. Let's take a look at what the Sunday Times is leading with, and of course the story of the week, a tragedy, but there was a glimmer of hope yesterday, where after 118 hours trapped under the rubble, the rescuers were able to rescue one Gabriel Gwambe, who was rescued at that building collapse in George. What do you make of also just the coverage of this tragedy as well, the communications that we're getting from officials in George?
Yeah, I think the first thing to note about that story is how refreshing it is to read a human interest story at this time when most media outlets are focusing on elections that are coming in 2 weeks' time. So to get a story that puts a human touch to what is happening in society is refreshing. But also this is a story about a real miracle, as the headline says, because one would have given all hope. I mean, 5 days under the rubble, one would think that maybe the worst would have happened. So it would be interesting when all the trauma processes have been done, and Mr. Gwambe has been seen by trauma experts, and all the dust has settled, to get his side of the story in terms of what was going through his mind. How was the situation when he was trapped there? Because there are a lot of details that one would want to hear. But also, the story is also very colorful in terms of how the rescue operations worked, and they never gave up. even when common reason might dictate that after 5 days there won't be any chance of finding survivors. So it is a very, very interesting story indeed. I'm also thinking about what people could be thinking about at this moment in terms of what caused the building to collapse in the first place. So it would obviously be an emotional moment for families who lost their loved ones and those with their loved ones still admitted in hospital. But perhaps that's a story for another day. In terms of finding what caused that building to collapse in the first place.
And indeed, as we know, there's still many who are unaccounted for. And of course, earlier reports that a 17th person has been recovered there as well. Let's take a look at what the Sunday Tribune is leading with this afternoon. We are looking at the headline there about parties send in the big guns. Would have heard from the former president, Thabo Mbeki, just a moment ago. He is out in KwaZulu-Natal. KZN is hotly contested here. We will later on in the week see the likes of the EFF in Inanda. The IFP president will be crisscrossing the province as well. Your reflections as well about this piece and the importance of a leader such as Mbeki coming out and showing support for the African National Congress.
Indeed, I think it is largely inevitable that at this hour all parties will be crisscrossing and trying to put in the last detail that would perhaps convince the fence sitters to vote for them. So it's not surprising that former President Mbeki has been in KZN, EFF is also going there, IFP, all the parties are going there to put in a word. But I think what is important is that while this always happens all the time, perhaps for the discerning voter, what's important is now to listen closely to the message in terms of what are these parties promising? Have they not promised these things in the past? Is this just the same message that is captured differently, perhaps? And then from there to then make their decisions in terms of the quality of information that the various political parties would be giving them, and to make wise voting choices from there.
Let's look now at the Sunday World, and that will be the last one we take a look at this afternoon. They are, in fact, it's quite the story, isn't it, that the Electoral Court has received a written complaint implicating one Mosotho Moepe, who is the chair of the IEC, saying that he and some leaders of the ANC, in fact, plotted to sabotage the ATM, and this was leading up to the 2019 elections. This particular complaint was laid by a former ANC researcher in the Western Cape legislature.
Indeed, it's an interesting story because because of the nature of allegations that are being raised in that story, which are quite big and alarming. But it's also interesting in terms of the timing that these allegations have been raised. Which may cause concern to voters about the impartiality and credibility of the electoral management body. But perhaps since this is the case that has been taken to the courts, it might be wise to wait for the rules of justice and see what conclusions would be drawn from there. And if it were not for that, it would have been interesting to find out the response that the ANC and the IEC would give to such allegations.
Timing is everything, isn't it? We'll park it there this afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Oswald Ureke, who is with the University of Johannesburg, helping us get a sense of what is leading in some of our Sunday newspapers. You're watching The Week Ahead. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us right here on The Week Ahead. On Wednesday, the 15th of May, the Department of Labour and the University of Johannesburg will be hosting a memorial lecture focusing on the life and contribution of Elijah Bakai. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering the special tribute. Bakai was a trade union leader who sacrificed his life for the struggle and the building of a non-racial, non-sexist democratic society in South Africa. He was one of the founding leaders of the National Union of Mine Workers and rose to become the Congress of South African Trade Union president at its launch in 1985. Joining us for more on this is COSATU spokesperson Matthew Parks. Matthew, thank you very much for your time and a very good afternoon to you. In 1982, the National Union of Mine Workers was formed with Bakai as the vice president. Its birth was facilitated by Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, who rose to be its first general secretary. Bakai later became the president of COSATU in 1985 when the federation was formed. President Ramaphosa and Bakai have a very long history in the trade union. Talk to us about the significance of this lecture coming up this week, but also perhaps some of the special moments about their own relationship within the trade union movement.
Good afternoon, thanks for having us. So this is Workers' Month. We have Workers' Day on the 1st of May, where COSATU held celebrations across the country, including in Athlone in Cape Town with President Cyril Ramaphosa, who, as you mentioned, was one of the founding pioneers of the trade union movement, in particular the National Union of Mine Workers. So we're celebrating this month to celebrate the sacrifice of many workers, the trade union movement, many stalwarts of the struggle made to bring us to the democracy we enjoy today. So that includes people like Elijah Bakai, who is a vice president of NUM and the president of COSATU. It includes people like Ray Alexander, who helped build FAO during the darkest days of apartheid, and Oscar Mpeta. There's also a chance to say, look how far we've come. We've got today one of the most respected progressive constitutions in the world. We have labor laws put in place, which are a direct legacy and result of the work done by Elijah Bakai and many other people like Oscar Mpeta. They protect the rights of workers. They try to move us to a more fair labor regime, to recognize the value of workers to society and to improve their living and working conditions and their salaries. It's also a chance to reflect on the difficulties that we still experience and how much more we still have to do, from tackling unemployment rate, dealing with the issues of poverty and inequality, to really growing the economy, to dealing with corruption and so forth. So it's really in that spirit that we're coming together. At times it's national democracy to forget about how far we've come, to forget about the sacrifices of an Elijah Bakai, who during the darkest days of apartheid in the 1980s, with Cyril Ramaphosa as a general secretary, led the most successful industrial strikes, really breaking the back of the apartheid regime in the late 80s. And those kind of efforts, the industrial action, the boycotts that workers did at unions across the Cape Flats and so forth, the many other strikes across from KZN and so forth, really helped to force the apartheid regime on its knees, to force it to go and negotiate with the liberation movement led by the ANC, and to bring us to where we are today. So it's a chance to reflect and honor those sacrifices. Many people died, for example, Vuyi Silimini, but also it's a chance to say, whilst we applaud this progress, these achievements, we still have to do much, much more. And of course, it's useful to constantly remind ourselves that workers are the heart of the economy. And when we see, some political parties, whether it's a Democratic Alliance or an Action SA, who say, let's scrap the labor rights and the protections of workers, it's a chance also to reflect that, well, we shouldn't take these rights for granted. We should actually make sure we do even more to enhance them, to strengthen them. But equally, we must do more work with our colleagues in business and government on how to grow the economy, how to reduce unemployment.
And what are you hoping to hear from the president later this week when he does deliver this lecture? He wears a hat as a former trade unionist, but is also a leader of government. So whatever call that we would hear and continue to hear coming from the labour movement is to himself, essentially. How does he achieve congruence between being a former trade unionist but also accounting for what they currently doing or perhaps aren't doing as leader of government?
Yeah, no, look, I think it's a memorial lecture, so it's to honor the legacy of Elijah Bakai. And I think we would hope to hear from the president, who worked very closely with him in NUM, some of the personal stories, some of the difficulty they experienced, what are the lessons they learned, how do they manage to overcome very difficult conditions, In the 1980s, on average, every day, at least one mine worker died in an accident at the workplace. Today, it's about one a week. So what are the practical lessons? What are the achievements they managed to win in very difficult conditions? But of course, he's the president of the republic. He is the incoming president of the 7th administration as well. So also it's a chance for him to say to workers, whether they are mine workers, whether they work in coal plants, or at Eskom, whether they are security guards or domestic workers, what is the vision for the next 5 years about how to improve their conditions, from ensuring they get paid at least above a minimum wage, to ensure their rights to maternity leave are respected? How is government going to help improve compliance of these labor laws at workplaces, whether they are farms or restaurants? Also, how government plans to grow the economy. So I think there's a chance for that as well. But also equally is to constantly ensure that the rights of workers, whether they're domestic workers, whether they're petrol attendants, are constantly placed at the heart of our economic recovery and are not simply treated as some sort of appendage or afterthought by government, by political parties, or by business. So I think it's a chance for that. It's not meant to be a heavy affair. It's a celebration really of an Elijah Bakai, who many young people may not be aware of the kind of contribution he made, or those of us counterparts like John Gamomo or Elizabeth Abrams. So there's a chance to do that, to celebrate it, that look, at times it's easy as South Africans to become a little bit despondent, to become frustrated by the many difficulties we've experienced, from corruption to crime and so forth. But also to say, you know what, we've also managed to achieve remarkable accomplishments because of people like Elijah Bakai, because of people, like Oscar Mpeta and so forth, who really managed to, in the darkest of times against apartheid, managed to do huge things. And today we're the recipients of it. So it's also a challenge to ourselves as a current generation, and even to young people after us, to say, what are we going to do to continue the good work these giants have handed to us? How are we going to ensure that we hand over South Africa to our kids, to our grandchildren, in a far better condition than we found it at? And at times these might sound like very cliche, slogans or commitments to make. But I think the decade of state capture, where some amongst us who were entrusted to lead betrayed the nation, betrayed the Constitution, is a reminder we should not take anything for granted. And when we see today, domestic workers subject to sexual harassment, when we see farm workers dying in terrific accidents, it's a reminder that we shouldn't take our progressive laws for granted. We've got so much more to do as labor to ensure workers are aware of the rights, as businesses to comply with these rights, and as government to make sure that all of us play our role, including the state as well, to really delivering a better life for the workers who in so many ways do such a remarkable job. During COVID-19, we saw nurses and doctors sacrificing their lives to keep all of us safe. We saw municipal workers keeping the streets cleaned. Defense force and police officers really working flat out to keep all of us safe. So it's a chance also to say to workers, we see you, we appreciate you, we applaud you. And as to employers, that really we should embrace the spirit of a living wage. We should respect and invest in our workers, and we should not treat them as simple commodities.
Of course, this lecture also comes on the backdrop of a tragedy that we saw in George. The official number 17 workers reported dead there, and still about 39 unaccounted for there. And again, it brings to the fore questions about workplace conditions. Of course, there's still many questions to be answered about what transpired at that George building collapse there. So as much as, and from your responses, that the tone is quite celebratory, the challenges that workers face across industries are quite intense, and perhaps some may even argue it's getting worse and not better. Do you hope that the lecture will cover the present day realities and challenges that workers continue to face?
It needs to, because on law we've got wonderful labor laws, from occupational health and safety to minimum wage, etc. But many employers, like in this case of George, very clearly, blatantly defy them. It's very clear that the occupational health and safety laws were not put in place at George, at the building site. It's very clear that other laws were not implemented when you see that many of these workers were undocumented and were not registered for the Compensation of Occupational Injuries and Diseases Fund or the Unemployment Insurance Fund. And as a consequence of that kind of flippant defiance of the labor laws by employers, not just in George, but across many sectors, workers are placed at risk. When they get retrenched, they're not able to claim from the UIF. When they get killed, the families can't claim the benefits that are due to the families. And so we need to say, yes, we have good labor laws, no doubt about it. But we need to see much better compliance. It means that we've got to employ more labor inspectors at the Department of Labor, because the current 1,500 is woefully inadequate when you look at the millions of workplaces, the 60 million workers we have currently, the challenges that they experience in many workplaces. It also means to us as unions, we've got to do far better to recruit, to unionize, to empower members, to organize, to expose delinquent employers. It also means government's got to make sure that those employers who misbehave are really found and held accountable. It's beyond shameful that this company could take place in George, not far from the George municipal offices. So it shows you that municipality is not concerned about the implementation of labour laws, of health and safety, of construction laws, building site laws, etc. So we got to also hold politicians accountable for the failures, because in this instance, we've surpassed about 15 deaths. Many more are still buried under rubble, and as each hour passes by, the chance of them surviving becomes even more tragic. We have families who depend upon these people and who are now left condemned to poverty. So we've got to do far better.
Yeah.
So I think for us, that's the key message that's got to come out of it. We have to do better for our workers.
As a final point, we're 17 days away from the elections. When the lecture takes place, we'll be about 15 days away. As COSATU, a member of the alliance as well, in support of the ANC, what do the next 2 weeks or so look like for you as you push and try and convince workers that the ANC is still the party to support?
Yeah, so all the gains we have won since 1994, the progressive constitution or progressive labour laws, the 60% of the budget we invest in investing in working class communities, the minimum wage, all of these things, the economic policies to grow the economy, to support local procurement, those are achieved because of the ANC. The success we had during COVID-19 of releasing 65 billion rand to help 5.7 million workers, it's because of the ANC. And again, the George building tragedy reminds us of the dangers of following the DA route, where it says scrap our labour laws, our health and safety laws, because you'll be exposing workers to the most vicious forms of abuse and risk and danger. But I think for the last 2 weeks, it's about going flat out to intensify campaigns, visiting all workplaces, to remind workers why it's important all of us vote, irrespective of our political views, to make sure we put in place a stable majority for the ANC, because we can't afford the chaos we've seen in coalitions. In Gauteng, for example, we've got too much challenges to focus on, so we really need to empower the incoming Ramaphosa-led administration to ensure we can really focus on growing the economy, dealing with corruption, and jobs.
Thank you very much. That is COSATU's Matthew Parks. The Elijah Bakai Memorial Lecture takes place on Wednesday, the 15th of May. On to this now. Statistics South Africa is set to release the unemployment figures in its quarterly labour force survey this coming Tuesday. Labour market observers are not expecting much of a shift in the unemployment rate. The last data released for the fourth quarter of 2023 saw official unemployment tick up to 32.1%. The data released comes just ahead of the national and provincial elections, and while campaigning and political parties are promising that some 2 to 4 million jobs will be created in a space of 5 years.
Unemployment remains one of the country's major scourges, robbing people of their dignity as they are unable to put food on the table. And this comes as the local economy is expected to only grow by around 1 or 1.2% this year. It grew by 0.6% last year. Economists say these growth levels are inadequate to really address job growth. And with the next unemployment data out later this week, it's expected to remain high as usual.
Unfortunately, the reality is that there's an election around the corner, and that means that the private sector is in a wait-and-see mode, waiting to see what is going to happen in elections, because that will determine what policy we're going to have going forward, and of course that will have a huge impact on what can be expected in terms of the economy. So in terms of unemployment, I don't expect much change during the first quarter.
Between 2013 and 2023, the economy only saw about a net 0.16 million jobs added. Despite this reality, political parties are promising jobs left, right and centre during the next administration, to the tune of millions. But some are taking these with a pinch of salt.
That, of course, is just a false promise, because political parties or governments do not create jobs. In fact, the governments can destroy jobs. And if we see what's been happening, look what has been happening to the South African economy the last couple of years, in fact, the last couple of decades, then the current government hasn't been doing a very good job in terms of job creation. And the reason why not is because the economic policies that were implemented and the way that it has been implemented was really quite detrimental to economic growth.
Many economists argue that it's key for any South African government to work towards creating a conducive economic environment so that the private sector is better able to operate, which hopefully then results in creating much needed jobs. A failure to do this will continue to see the country's human capital wasted as a result right across the age spectrum. Nompamelo Siziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.
You're with the week ahead on the SABC News channel. Stay with us. We will be back with you at the top of the hour. 17 people have been confirmed dead in the George building collapse. Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane has conveyed words of condolence to the bereaved families who tragically lost their loved ones after the wall of a shop collapsed at Ngobo in the Eastern Cape. A family from Soshanguve north of Pretoria has been left distraught after their 5-year-old boy was shot and killed during a hijacking. Welcome to the week ahead right here on the SABC News channel. We are live with you today from our Johannesburg studios. You can interact with us on social media platforms. It's at The Week Ahead and our hashtag is The Week Ahead. You can also give us a ring on 011-714-0680, 0681 or 0682, and a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I am Sebenzile Nkambule. Welcome. There are hopes that there will be no further delays in the 10-year-old murder probe into the death of soccer star Senzo Maywa. Almost 2 weeks ago, the trial was postponed after the defense accused the state of a trial by ambush. This after the state introduced new evidence as court proceedings were due to get underway. The evidence related to cell phone communication between all the accused dating back to 2018. The trial is expected to resume on Monday as SABC News senior reporter Criselda Lewis looks at what caused the latest snag.
It was yet another start and stop in the decade-long murder mystery. Just as the cross-examination of cell phone data analyst Gideon Gous was due to resume, the defense accused the state of being dishonest and supplying crucial documents piecemeal. This, they said, jeopardizing their defense.
There's also new information which is just surfaced, that is got to do with accused number 3, my client. There's also a very mysterious number that is now resurfaced in terms of the document that has been sent overnight. There's also a new number, and all along the state was asserting that accused number 3 is not affected by these cell phone records, but all of a sudden there's a new number. I haven't consulted that. I don't know where the number comes from or applied for that number. How does it really affect him? How does it really affect him so far as this case is concerned? Those are all the concerns that I have, that I also need to study these documents, these voluminous documents, my lord. If the court can just look at these voluminous documents, and I'll also have to study them and go and consult with Mr. Mure in order to get proper instructions.
My lord, I wish to confirm that I've also received additional information this morning, which was not supplied to me on Tuesday. On top of that, my lord, on the affidavit of Lieutenant Colonel Gous, he also says that when he analyzed the numbers, there is also SMSs, communication through SMSs that I've requested from the state to provide me in order to further consult with my client. Thank you.
So you haven't got those SMSs?
Yes, I haven't received those SMSs.
It had been the third time that the case did not sit due to outstanding documents.
This morning I received another bundle of documents from the state, of which I have not been able to read them. I can see also the email was sent last night at 2300 hours, of which I was not told not to sleep and wait for this email. Unfortunately, I couldn't read it overnight. As a result, my lord, I would like to place it on record that this is a trial by ambush, my lord. Yesterday, I had all the day to consult with my client on all the documents that the state is preparing or anticipating to use. However, the documents were not supplied to me, especially the affidavits which were marked by my learned friend, Mr. Baloy, that there are pages that are missing. And my lord, what is very bad in this trial is that the state is dishonest with this court. The state is not telling the truth in this court, that they need time to investigate and to compile all the necessary records that are supposed to be supplied to the defense, so that we can be able to consult properly and then be able to run with this trial. Now, Mr. Host,
I strongly object to the language employed by my Leonard friend say that we are dishonest. We are officers of this court, will never be dishonest. No, English is not our language, but I suppose that's not really what, or I want to believe that's not what my Leonard friend is implying, but we will never be dishonest.
Okay, thank you, my lord. They are honest. The state is honest, my lord. I'm changing from dishonest to honest. The state is honest. My lord, the witness is called now to the witness box to proceed with this trial, whereas we are being supplied with information which is relevant to this witness this morning.
That's why one will be tempted to say they are cooking, they are manufacturing day in, day out, so that it can fit what the state wants to do. Because I can tell this court now, they don't have a case. I'm not arguing the case, but I don't see the purpose of this witness to be here. Number two, this disclosure, what time do we have to go through? Because if you consult with the client, sentence by sentence, transaction by transaction, is this fair? Is it fair trial to this accused?
At least one legal analyst says the defense is correct, as the cell phone records are crucial.
They should have received their documents, before the trial began. That is why we have what we call a pre-trial conference, where before the trial starts, all the documents and all the witnesses that will be used by the states are given to the defense to say, this is the information or the evidence we'll have during the court trial. That is why we need to focus on Section 35, subsection 3, paragraph I, which says every accused in the trial has a right to adduce and challenge evidence, which means the evidence that he has to challenge or she has to challenge must be given to him in time so that he or she can prepare. Now, my concern on this matter will be, this matter, remember, it started de novo, meaning it started afresh. This document should have been available in the first trial. This document should have been available on the pre-trial of this matter. So it's a concern that these documents are given in piecemeal, inverted commas, if you will. So I think that the defense is correct in saying this is not the right way of doing things when such a prominent case is being done. Even if it was not a prominent case, just sticking with the constitutional rights, it was important that, they got their documents in time so that they can prepare. In relation to the cell phone evidence, my view is, yes, in the beginning, if we followed the trial, the accused stated that they don't know each other. And when the matter proceeded, it was clear that, there is some connection, there is some cell phone communication. Therefore, as the matter is continuing, the state is saying they have evidence that the accused have been communicating with each other, which I think is crucial to show that the accused know each other. And it also puts the accused possibly in a bad light in the sense that they are not trustworthy in saying they don't know each other. However, the main thing is the accused have been charged with murder, and the state must prove beyond reasonable doubt that all 5 of them are involved in the murder. So them knowing each other is crucial to show that they do have knowledge of each other. But if we look at it holistically, are they the ones that murdered Senzo Maywa? Maybe it's just circumstantial evidence that would assist to a certain extent, but the main issue that the state has to prove is the accused are the ones who murdered each other. Then, of course, there are outstanding issues that one may have a concern with, where the state says, or the state is using evidence that there is a mastermind, but there's no mastermind that is arrested. And then there's a docket of 375 of 19, which is another issue that is possibly, an elephant in the room. But at the end of the day, it is concerning that the accused will say they don't know each other, but they know each other. But what does it prove, holistically? Does it prove that they murdered Senzo Maywa?
Cell phone data analyst Gideon Gous is expected on the stand on Monday. Criselda Lewis, SABC News in Johannesburg.
To this now, it's the last day of the Global Anti-Apartheid Conference on Palestine. A number of international civil society organizations, activists, government officials and others have been meeting, calling for the freedom of Palestinians. They also want Israel to be held accountable as the conflict worsens in Gaza. Our Kailihle Kumalo joins us now from Sandton. Kailihle, thank you very much for your time with us this afternoon. Where are we currently with the conference, some of the insight that's emerging there?
Well, absolutely, Sebenzile. Just a short while ago, a declaration has been read here where they stated in no uncertain terms the support for the people of Palestine to have self-determination, but also a very important call is for an immediate and unconditional, but also a permanent ceasefire, especially in Gaza, where we look at the developments, especially a last refuge point where so many of the Palestinians are cramped after running away from the northern part of Palestine. So a very, very untenable situation. But in the main as well, Sebenzile, this is where a new anti-global apartheid movement for Palestinians has been given birth. But let's hear from one of the delegates here, all the way from Ireland. That's, of course, Declan. So thank you so much indeed for your time. When you were speaking there, you spoke about common humanity. You spoke about making sure that there is unity for purpose. I mean, the declaration has been read. What's the way forward now?
An action plan which implements the ideas that have been reflected in the declaration. It has set out the very key principles, all of them reflecting international law, human dignity, the principles of self-determination and the right of the Palestinian people to a sovereign national state.
And just, Declan, what about the multilateral institutions? I mean, for example, there was a very tremendous pressure for the International Criminal Court to act. Those warrants of arrest, we've seen atrocities, we've seen the mass graves, and so many religious areas that are pointing to tangible evidence, pointing to some of the war crimes that might have been committed.
Absolutely. What's happening in Gaza is a genocidal war. Palestinian children and women are being massacred on a daily basis, atrocities on an industrial scale. It is absolutely untenable for the world to stand by and to watch and not to take action. And my party, Sinn Féin in Ireland, strongly commends the courageous action of the South African government in taking this landmark case to the International Criminal Court of Justice and seeking action to be taken through the Court of Justice against the State of Israel for the war crimes that it is perpetrating at this time. We need to see an end to this war, an unconditional permanent ceasefire. There must be a withdrawal of all Israeli forces from Gaza, but also from the West Bank. The settler colonial project and expansion of illegal settlements must end in the West Bank also. This war will eventually end. Talks must commence, and those talks must be fully representative in order that a pathway can be opened to negotiations leading to the ultimate establishment of a sovereign national Palestinian state.
And Declan, what did you make of South Africa going back to the World Court, talking about the catastrophe that continues in Rafah, but also saying that the current provisional measures are not adequate in addressing, just the issues at hand, but also calling for the total withdrawal of Israel from the southern parts of Gaza, especially because given the catastrophe, the women, the children, a lot of the delegates say they were talking about a very precarious situation that is unfolding.
We are witnessing a catastrophe on an ongoing daily and weekly basis. But if the Israelis proceed with a full ground invasion of Rafah, then we will face into an absolute apocalypse. That's why it is essential that the influence and the intervention of the court and multilateral institutions such as the United Nations are upscaled, that the interventions are robust, and that they are made to be effective. At this point in time, the Israeli state is not listening. I believe that we cannot see the West any longer as a monolith. There have been very significant developments and shifts in positions. But this much is clear. Notwithstanding progressive positions which have been taken by my country, by the Spanish state, the Portuguese state, the Belgians and the Maltese and the European Union, it is now incumbent on those Western powers who are bankrolling the Israeli murder machine to desist and discontinue their arming and their funding of the murder of Palestinian children and women in Gaza at this time, and to end their complicity with the apartheid occupation of Palestine, whether that is in the West Bank or in Gaza.
Just before I let you go, Declan, others, for example, the mantra that has been used by the Israeli authorities, they say it's all about self-defense. For example, Prime Minister Netanyahu saying even if they're not getting weapons, they are prepared to use their fingernails to make sure that they win this war. What do you make of that?
This war must end. This war is unacceptable. It is absolutely unjustifiable. The Palestinian people have been living with 75 years of rampant colonialism, apartheid and occupation, and the people of South Africa know only too well what apartheid meant in your country. This must become a global moment. This must become a watershed moment where we effectively and collectively on a global international basis work in common cause with one voice to finally bring to an end the unjust occupation, the illegal occupation and the apartheid and the massacre which is being inflicted upon the Palestinian people. This conference is hugely significant. This is a landmark moment, and I will hope to see in the coming weeks and months a new intensification of global efforts being applied to Western powers, to other countries, and also to our multilateral institutions. And I hope that the International Court of Justice will listen to the outcomes of this conference and read the declaration of this conference and act accordingly.
Thank you so much indeed for your time, Declan. Of course, Sebenzile, all the way from Ireland, really just throwing their weight behind this particular conference right in Johannesburg. And so many voices really from Ireland, from so many countries, from Bolivia, from Brazil, and also the neighboring countries in Southern Africa. Namibia's Justice Minister is right in South Africa. They're also pledging solidarity. It's all about mobilization, because also drawing those parallels in what happened here in South Africa, that international solidarity was absolutely vital in South Africa's liberation. With that, back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Kailihle Kumalo, SABC News reporter. Live to us from Sandton at the Global Anti-Apartheid Conference on Palestine. You are watching The Week Ahead. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. The DA federal leader, John Steenhuisen, brings the party's election campaign to the Northern Cape on Monday. He will have a rally in Appington in the Northern Cape, an ANC stronghold. The DA hopes to wrestle from the ruling party. SABC senior reporter Ulrich Hendricks and video journalist Lereko Motseko bring us the story.
So it's just over 2 weeks ago before elections 2024, and of course, all the political parties are ramping things up. The DA's John Steenhuisen has been in the Northern Cape twice this week, and of course he's taking his campaign to Uppington in the Northern Cape. Of course, he's not the first time that he's been there. In previous elections, he's also went to the ZFM Magaud region, trying to ramp up, support for the party ahead of the elections. But let's look ahead in terms of what he'll be doing there tomorrow. Fozia Roda is, of course, from the DA. Fozia, tell us, firstly, John Steenhuisen, second time in the province this week, and of course, going to Uppington tomorrow. What can we expect?
Hi, Ulrich. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity for hosting us as the Democratic Party. Yes, our federal leadership has prioritized the province in terms of our campaign effort. He was in Gamagara as well as Gasogonyana, where he was part of a march as well as a rally. In terms of our plans for next week and ahead, we've got big plans in terms of having our federal leadership here. On Monday the 13th, he will be in David Kruiper, where he will be part of, where he will be part of a huge campaign effort that we are driving within one of our biggest support bases, which is David Kruiper. We is planning on meeting with the business community. There is a march planned for him, as well as a rally. So we would want to invite everybody that feels that the DA is the solution in terms of rescuing our province to please come and join us at the showgrounds on Monday on the 13th. And then, of course, he is coming for our final punch that we're giving in terms of our federal leadership presence within the province, and that will be on the 21st of May, where he will actually be here, right here in Salplaiki, part of our huge bang in terms of the conclusion of our campaign effort.
Of course, yeah, if you look at the DA support in the Northern Cape, it's been steady, just around 20, just over 20% in the past elections. Somehow you feel very optimistic this year. What are you expecting to happen during 2024 elections?
Ulrich, I must say, as the political leadership now, right, we have our constituency heads, we have our provincial leadership on the ground. So the feedback that we get is directly from community members. When you look at previous support bases that we considered strong support bases for some of our opposition parties, when members come out, when we engage on the ground in terms of our campaigning and want to know what is the solution, we obviously, in terms of our air war, we have maximized our messaging in terms of what it is we currently have, what it is our plan in terms of improving and rescuing our communities, especially if you look at critical areas around safe water. I mean, if you look at the blue drop that says over 70.5% of the water in our province is not safe for consumption. It is contaminated with brown water. Now you're going to ask me, what is contaminated with brown water? When there is an element of sewage that comes in which makes it not fit for human consumption. If you look at the lack of service delivery on a municipal level, you look at the Department of Health and the services that our communities are not getting. We can't bring patients to hospitals. We do not have enough chronic medication. This is a messaging that we as opposition has been very consistent in getting out, and is based on facts. Is based on how we manage our different portfolios at the legislature. And when you empower a voter with facts, and when you come and you tell the voter, this is what we can do for the province. We have the track record, we have the passion, we are a party that is committed, and we love the communities that we serve, and as such, we are driven in terms of our solution. Our solution is very, very clear. We want to rescue our communities from cadre deployment. You and I earlier spoke of fit for purpose. You cannot put people in a position that is not fit for purpose, that does not have the qualifications or the experience. So when we go out with that messaging and we talk about professionalizing our public administration, we talk about, we're not just sucking this out of our thumb. It's evidence-based decisions and evidence-based strategy that we will implement going forward. And of course, if you look at the schools, right? If you look at the rapid building school program in the Western Cape, where we build schools, Saxon Primary School, 65 days within budget of 40 million. There's Fisher's Hook, we built, I think it was in the last month, at 70 million within budget. So to build schools within days is entirely possible. So that is what we come, that is the offering we come to our communities. The days where we want to be emotional about who we vote for, we have to consider what legacy are we going to leave for generations to come. We are going to have to consider what our generations to come going to inherit, and we have to look at how we need to save our people. Bottom line, that is our messaging. We prove that we can do it, and we will be able to implement it. Give us a day within the first 100 days. Anywhere where we come in as a DA, you will feel the DA difference. And that is a position that we take very, very seriously in terms of showing our communities and the trust that they gave to us by casting their vote towards us. This is what you're going to be getting as a DA governance difference.
So for the elections, you win not by emotion, you win it by numbers. Yes. So in terms of your own polling, in terms of what you expect, where do you see the DA ending up?
Ulrich, honestly speaking, I've been part of campaigning in the party for the longest of times, and I'm not even one to underestimate the excitement and enthusiasm. And when we meet as a campaign, we talk about that. When I spoke earlier on about ANC or opposition supporters that come to us, when we just set our information tables where we want to engage with communities that come to ask us, please, how can we take it forward? How can I be part of the program to rescue? That gives us the optimism that fuels us in terms of our work that we do on the ground. And I must tell you that we are hard at work on the ground. I told you earlier on, I drove today from Victoria West, and I'm here doing this interview with you. Myself as a public rep and all public reps and our activism base are so enthused and excited because they too on a daily basis, they also get excited when opposition parties previously where they had membership to is now looking at the DA for that solution. People realize the promising of giving me my title deed. You know it happens every electoral cycle, whether it happens in a local government cycle or whether in a national provincial. The promise of your title deed is your right. Your title deed gives you certain economic benefits that you can bear fruit from. People are becoming open to the tactics that gets deployed. People are becoming open to that food parcel. They know that food parcel that get used with state resources, that food parcel is not going to keep them eating for five years. In addition to that, they've experienced the cost of living. So they are realizing if we must continue on this trajectory, at the end of the day, it is my little ones, the one that is meant to be leaderships of tomorrow, that will be put at a disadvantage in terms of truly taking up that power of leadership. Because at the end of the day, we are leaderships today, but we need to prepare our young ones for leadership in the future. So
I've noticed
yes,
you haven't said a number.
Yeah, a number for what? Oh, no, percentage. Yes. We're definitely going to take the ruling party under 50%. That I can tell you, and that is based from feedback from the ground. So we are working towards that.
So it also means possible coalitions. We're talking about a myriad of political parties, individuals coming into this elections. Mm-hmm. So you set up in terms of, I know the multi-party
charter, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But you've also got other elements within the Northern Cape where you've got these community forums as well. Are you talking to them as well?
From the political landscape perspective, our party has made it very, very clear in terms of the multi-party charter. We're looking at joining forces with parties that have the same visionary in terms of philosophically where we fall in terms of the same page. But you must also remember, when we consider our position within the multi-party charter, you must also look at what it is that we bring in as the Democratic Party. We come with a myriad of experience, right? Proven experience where we were able to implement solutions on behalf of our communities that we serve. So when any voter wants to consider an option, it's well within their right. They need to consider which party has the proven track record and the political will to use the public purse for the benefit of every community member. Which party has done that? And when you've applied your mind, do due diligence. We live within a democracy, but do due diligence. Let your decision that you make be based on evidence. And let that evidence direct you, not an emotional one. What the AG report is telling you, what you are listening in terms of corruption, what you are listening in terms of state capture, let those aspects and pockets of information govern your decision making in terms of who it is that you want to elect to present you and your little one going forward.
Thank you very much. That's Fawzia Roda, of course, from the DA in the Northern Cape, of course, talking about, what is the DA expects to, to perform here in the Northern Cape. Of course, also speaking about John Steenhuisen, the federal leader of the Democratic Alliance, his visit to Uppington in the Northern Cape on Monday, and of course saying that that final push will come on the 21st when again Steenhuisen is here in the province and he'll be here in the Francis Baard district for the final push before election 2024.
On to this now, the KwaZulu-Natal Division of the High Court in Pietermaritzburg will from the 15th to the 16th of May hear the matter concerning the AmaZulu royal household. Last month, the court heard an application by 5 members of the AmaZulu royal family for an interdict against the continued rule of the King Misuzulu kaZwelithini and his administration of the Ingonyama Trust. The members lodged an application last year while a legal challenge to President Cyril Ramaphosa's recognition of Misuzulu as monarch was still before the High Court in Pretoria. We're joined on the line by political analyst and cultural expert, Professor Musa Ulu. Thank you very much, Professor, for your time with us this afternoon. Perhaps if you could give us just a brief refresher and give us a sense of what your own expectations are of the upcoming court challenge appearance.
Well, good afternoon, Sebenzile, and also to your viewers. The issue that the members of the Zulu royal family are taking to the Pietermaritzburg High Court relate to 2 issues. The first issue is that culturally, the rituals that were supposed to be performed for Misuzulu to become King of Zulu were not completed. And therefore, his coronation, according to tradition, is incomplete, and therefore may not be able to perform traditional rituals and ceremonies. And possibly is one of the reasons why he has dropped possibly the biggest, the cornerstone of all Zulu ceremonies, which is the first fruit ceremony, which is celebrated not only by the Zulus, but by many kingdoms throughout sub-Saharan Africa and the diaspora. It's because they say he cannot celebrate it because he is not ready in terms of the family rituals to can be able to approach the ancestors and be an intercessor between the ancestors and the nation. That is the first one. The second one is a governance issue, that he is being given money, or maybe, as they say, taking money from Ingonyama Trust to fight his court cases. Now, he's a trustee there, and as a trustee, you usually, even if you're a chairperson of a board, will not make a living out of that kind of position. Usually, it would be you get paid for out-of-pocket expenses, attending meetings and so on. But the court cases that he faces, you must remember, they date back to before the time when he became king. So it becomes, as they say, those who take him to court, irrational. Why would government give him money to fight court cases which date back to before he was king? Even if he is king, he has a salary and about 100 million rands worth of a budget from the provincial government. To maintain the royal palaces and all of those, and pay many workers who work there, screeners and everyone. Now they're asking, why is government giving him so much money when there are court cases, and the court cases date to the time when he was not yet king? For the playing fields to be leveled, they argue that maybe he should use from his own pocket to pay for his lawyers. And not, because with the Ingonyama Trust, I think it's more of a governance issue and accountability. I don't think he has a right at all to any of that money beyond out-of-pocket expenses.
On the issue, Professor Xulu, about the rituals that are yet to be done, what is their significance? And perhaps what might the impact on the Amazulu nation be if these rituals aren't completed or done soon?
Well, a king rules, he takes his, like they do when they run, he takes his cue from his father. What happened was that due to the manner which is in another court case where they complained that the royal family was not involved in the selection and appointment of Misuzulu to become king, and that the procedures that are in law were not followed. So what happened in terms of ritual, as a result of that, I suppose, the royal family, the seniors, elders of the royal family were supposed to hand over the spear of King Zwelithini and the shield of King Zwelithini to Misuzulu to become king in terms of traditions of the royal family. That has not happened. It makes him to be powerless, as I said, to perform strategic rituals that are foundational to the Zulu kingdom, like the first fruit ceremony, Umkhosi Weshwama. It weakens the kingdom as a result. Without that first fruit ceremony being performed, what happens is that the nation simply becomes poorer and poorer, because it's a nation of is a ritual of wealth that gets given by the universe to the nation as a result of observing the connectivity between the living and the dead and living in the universe and so on. It's not only among the Zulus, as I said, it's also among all kingdoms in sub-Saharan Africa. Once you miss that kind of ceremony, you are breaking with the past. And breaking with the past becomes problematic because then kingdoms in their nature are about maintaining the past.
How would you characterize the state of the support of the Zulu royal family of the king currently?
Well, they seem not to support him at all. I mean, what happened was that sometimes even we hear now his own siblings from his mother have problems. So they don't seem to support him at all. And sometimes it's related to issues of behavior, which they have raised at court, but also because some believe that if
Professor Xulu, I'm afraid I'm going to have to interrupt you. And we had, of course, apologized for that earlier, that we may need to break away and take you live to George, where the Minister of Police, Bakai, is currently addressing the media there and the community that's gathered there.
Found, and they're hospitalized and all that. But there are those that, unfortunately, they've been found, but not in the situation where they still have life. That's a problem. That we are facing. It's a situation that we'll be looking at it going forward, especially from the side of the government, specifically the South African police. Our job is to investigate matters like this in whatever form and come with the answers, or the answers that we believe are relevant, even if you don't find your loved ones still alive, but to know what happened. That will be job of the government, working with all levels of the government. You must remember that government is in three legs. That is local, that is province, and the national government. But specifically, there will be those departments that will be dealing with the matters. We can see, I'm told that yourselves, you are sitting here, tired, worried, and feeling pain of not knowing what news that you will receive. Is a quite painful thing. But if we all work together, we think life will be fine. But let me, maybe without saying much, I'm told that the community here has been really working hard to make sure that your life under trying conditions still remain the life. they can't deal with your frustration, your anxiety, and your fear, but also they can deal with your whatever you call it, whether it's a comfort or whether you call it circumstances around you. I'm told that the communities here are doing their best. But I'm also in front of you, because one has been watching these things since it started, the teams that are working there without really extracting which part of teams, whether the police, whether the municipality, whether emergencies and all that, they are doing the work from the heart. I'm told that some of them, they sleep 2 hours on a day, some of them 3 hours on a day. Some, they refuse to go and sleep as they are doing that work. But at the end, we'll have to find a way of letting you know what happened. It might not take a very short time. It might not be tomorrow, but it will be prudent and good that you know what really happened. If we work on that as the police, we need to provide that answer. Is there somebody that will have to be responsible and give us answers what really happened? Indeed, when the lives of people are lost, it can't just go as if nothing has happened. They will have to find an answer on that one. Maybe from the side of the police who are directed by investigations, we don't talk things that we think they are. Allow us to go with those investigations and we give what would have been found out of those investigations. So any kind of preempting what might have happened would be wrong. Maybe other people can talk about, but from the South African Police Service and from the police and law enforcement, that's one thing that we can do. It's always good to talk and let you know on matters that have been found by the investigation. So we will ask that space from you. Painful, I know you're waiting, you're anxious, we're waiting to hear, but we will ask that space as we deal. The first prize now is to deal with those that have suffered, either hospitalized, either they are normal, and those that have not been found. That would be the first prize. Second prize is for you to know what happened. But I must say, from the side of the South African Police Service, the investigation has started. Maybe it's enough to say so for now. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you to the Minister and folks. We know that in the previous sessions there were a lot of questions, but this time around we're not going to allow questions because we've already engaged with the Council Generals from the different countries. So those report.
Maybe one or two.
All right.
Maybe one or two questions.
All right, the Minister said maybe one or two questions.
So by a show of hands, you can raise your hand up if you would like to pose a question to the delegation or if you would like to engage with them. Please do remember to identify yourself, your name, surname, and if you are next of kin, a family, or resident of Ghana, if there are questions. The lady, you can stand up and identify yourself.
I'm here because of my boyfriend. I don't know whether to ask or to say what, but now it's enough. Enough is enough. We need to know exactly what's going on, or allow us to go there inside and see whether it's the process, because now I don't know what to believe. Because tomorrow is gonna be the second, it's going to start a second week. Today is making a week. We don't know nothing. Come on, guys. Come on.
All right, thank you. there anyone else that would like to pose a question?
My name is Bright. For my side, I just want to find out in terms of the process, in terms of the identification of the people that have been rescued, because it takes so long. So I don't know how long it's going to keep on taking for us to identify, more especially the people that are deceased. Yeah, because for us, we don't have information, but we have been informed that there is so much people that have been retrieved, but they're deceased. But to identify them is taking too long. So I don't know how long it's going to take for us to know. So that maybe the deceased people are some of our relatives that we are waiting for them here.
The first lady will fully understand the pain. Really, it would have been good that all answers are here and everybody knows, which is also related to your question. The mayor will add, especially on the second question, but I know that the mayor has spoken to the lady that has been here. We understood it very well. I'm sure most of us will be feeling the same, but those that they lost and they don't know what happened is worse, and it definitely will be pardoned to feel the way they do. The second one, I think the question of working on proper identification from the side of the government will help, so that as you go to identify, we also concur. There are issues that we need to work on. There are people that have not been found. We are looking at that. There are people that are in hospital. We are looking at that. There are numbers, and fortunately, numbers of those that are in hospital and those that are deceased are known now, those numbers. What we could do is to get and identify them first before, because I can imagine when you need to go and identify and they are all called to go, that will be a trauma, and everybody queuing there. We need to know, as we come back, say, we have this name, who is his relative here, and we take those specific, rather than come to you and guess, to say, let's all go and look at those bodies. And then I guess that will be a real trauma for all of us. We are doing on that. On some instances, it's quite difficult to do it, but we are pushing. There are things that are done. Some of the ambassadors and consuls have been invited. They are working with us. They are helping us, and all that, and other people, the employers and everybody who are working on the identification, so that we don't pull all of you to mortuary. Can you imagine all of you going to mortuary and they say, no, this is not for me, and the next one said it's for me, and they're all there. I think there must be some kind of a human space of that one, the respect of those that will be going to visit them, all that. This is a space one is requesting, understanding very well that is difficult, understanding, but we are not going to be hitting and missing on the matter of identification and all that. I think it would be ahead of a disrespect and very much on the basis of not sympathetic to the situation we are facing.
And also lastly, folks, we fully understand and empathize with the lady who has raised the question, because she has done everything that has been required of her. She has given us the name, the surname, the ID number, and a photo. If everybody else who hasn't done that as yet can please do so. And lady, I will get back to you tomorrow because we did submit what you have given to me. So when we can compile everything, because it is a system that they have to go through, and every minute something happens. Every minute there are changes. So I will get back to you. You did submit everything that was required. If everybody else can do that as well, we would really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, with you.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was our Minister of Police in South Africa as well as the District Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, the Minister will now proceed to conduct.
There was the Minister Bakai live in George after the tragedy, the George building collapse. It has been confirmed that 17 people have been confirmed dead. You would have heard there some of the family members asking and inquiring why it is that the identification process is taking as long as it has. But the Minister there saying that investigations are underway, but the primary focus at this stage is assisting those who have been affected and, of course, finding those who are yet to be accounted for. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is on the campaign trail in Cala in the Eastern Cape. Ramaphosa is accompanied by ANC National Chairperson Gwede Mantashe and Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane. Our SABC News reporter Kululego Nyembezi has more.
We are coming live from Itsala. This is the home of the late Chrisani, who hails from this small town of Itsala. You'll remember that the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, is here today, where she is visiting one of the churches here in Itsala. But there are a number of issues that have been raised here by the people of this area. But now I'm joined by the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Utata Oscar Mabuyane. Premier, welcome to the show. For sure, the president will be here, but there are issues that have been raised by the community here, ranging from service delivery, water, road infrastructure and stuff. What can you say to those people who have been complaining about that?
We are attending to almost all those problems. Remember, it's us who brought even the concept of service delivery, and we're doing that in the context of development trajectory. We are addressing these issues because we've got keen interest of rural development. No one else except the ANC has ever brought about the concept of rural development. We want to develop our people where they reside, where they are, so that they can easily access services. So that's what we're doing. I know I've been in this church not once. I know this road is a key issue that this church is requesting. It is not in the interest of this church, it is in interest of us, because this road has got a huge potential for us to unlock the economic development in this. This road connects 3 towns, Tsomo, Tsofimvaba, but also connecting Ngobo in a way. But it is critical for us because this road cuts through the Ngoha irrigation scheme, where we have got already off-take agreements from a number of investors that I would want to go, your Danone and others, that would want to go and set up. Already we are running dairy schemes there in the Ngoha. So it is in our interest as government and as people of Eastern Cape to ensure that this road is done. We are working with the minister on this road. We visited this road. We are in a discussion even yesterday trying to look at all possible ways and means on how best we can address that. But this road is going to be done. Just like T15 in Mount Frere, T17 in Mount Frere, just like a road in Middle Drift that connects Middle Drift to Grahamstown. Those are roads that we're working on. That's like a road that connects Ibiga from N2 down to Itafalofefe. Those are critical roads that we're working on. So we are hard at work. We're rolling out the infrastructure in our province, whether it is on the road. Yes, we have started with the provincial and the national road network to improve our economic logistics, but we are working also on these roads, which are provincial roads cutting through our rural areas. Remember, we're coming from a very low base. 90% of our roads in Eastern Cape are gravel roads. We are working, turning that tide, and we're turning it.
We know and understand that gender-based violence is a national issue. But what programs do you have to make sure that at least that you fight this gender-based violence here in the province?
We are led on that one national. President himself has been championing that. We have got legislations that have been passed to ensure that that is regulated, how it is done by government and how we respond. We are working with our communities. We are mobilizing our communities. Remember, we can't even have policemen and women who can be in each and every household. Gender-based violence and femicide most of the time happens in our own households, and those are people that know each other. So we are appealing to our society. It's a societal matter. It shows a kind of a moral decay that we are dealing with. We are trying to bring back this moral fiber in our society to ensure that our people are living at peace. But as a provincial government, we have been championed. We are hard at work to ensure that our people live peacefully. Our people are enjoying their livelihood.
Lastly, we know that MK party is slowly infiltrating your province. Are you worried about that?
That's a joke. Those are just people who have lacking something to do. You know, you can't have an organization that is done on the basis of anger, and people simply because they are angry of their own personal interest and all that, and they think of doing something like that. ANC is actually rooted not only in the Eastern Cape. ANC is going to win the elections come 29th of May nationally. It's not going to be in coalition with any other political party. ANC is going to win here in the Eastern Cape convincingly, because our people have seen difference since 1994 in their lives with the kind of a program that we're following to change their lives. We are hard at work to unite our people in this country, uniting them beyond the parameters of race, gender, to guarantee them democratic dispensation for their own prosperity. So ANC is actually unparalleled. You cannot match it with any. So no other political party that is, these are just regime change political parties funded by mischievous elements who would want to disrupt this country. We are not going to agree. Our people won't agree. We are hard at work. We are chasing voters. We are chasing votes. We want to make sure that our people are not misled by any individual, even if that individual would have been a president at some stage.
That's a premier of the Eastern Cape, who's also the chairperson of the ANC, saying that they fear not. They have absolutely no fear for the MK political party. Have just infiltrated the province of the Eastern Cape. Back to your studio.
And that was the week ahead. Thank you very much for joining us here on the SABC News channel. The news continues after this. I am Sebenzile Nkambule. Until next time, take care.